It's no secret that Dr. Shipman was an absolute wrong-'un, convicted of killing 218 people over his career, but that number is probably conservative, and the police reckon there was at least 250. So let's have a look how he got away with it for so long and how he was caught. Born just after the war in 1946 to strict Methodist parents, he had quite an unremarkable life in Nottinghamshire and ended up at Leeds University, where he became a doctor. After working at surgeries around the Hyde area of Greater Manchester, he finally settled on his own practice on Market Street in Hyde. But Harold, known as Fred to his friends on account of his middle name Frederick, had a very, very dark secret. His modus operandi, or MO, was to give elderly people high doses of morphine, which would peacefully kill them off. Why he did this we never found out, but many believe he thought he was doing the right thing and trying to end their suffering. And this theory is backed up by looking into Shipman's past. He was very close to his mum, and he witnessed her death. A doctor, a GP, was visiting her and treating her for her terminal lung cancer. He was giving her high doses of morphine, which subsided the pain and brought her great comfort. Could this be what he thought he was doing? Another clue to this was his own addiction to pethidine. In 1974, as a young doctor, he suffered a rugby injury and ended up in a lot of pain. He would forge prescriptions and prescribe himself pethidine, and soon became addicted. Eventually he was caught and fined £600, which was about 3 months' wages at the time, and forced to take a drug rehabilitation course up in York. And then he soon returned to working as a GP in the Hyde area. So not only does he have his experience treating patients with high dose painkillers, he's treated himself and seen the results firsthand, and he's seen the results in his own mum when she was dying of lung cancer. The other theory that people believe is that he did it for his own gain. He found himself in a lot of the wills and last testaments of many of his victims, often being left large sums of money, property, and various other valuables from people's estates. His final victim was Kathleen Grundy, and she left her entire estate of £386,000 to Harold Shipman, daughter Angela Woodruff, and her children. Upon doubting its authenticity, she complained to her solicitor, who lodged a complaint with the police. A subsequent investigation led police to find a typewriter, the same kind used in making the will, at Shipman's surgery, and when they exhumed her body, they found high levels of diamorphine, a heroin derivative, in her body, when the cause of death was noted as natural causes and old age. So all eyes were on Shipman now, and separate to this, one of his colleagues had noticed a high number of deaths that required Shipman to countersign both the death certificate and the request for a cremation. She had informed the local coroner, who had started his own investigation. 2 investigations soon turned into 1, and 15 victims were identified, and he was charged with their murders. A subsequent trial led to him being found guilty of all 15, and all were murdered with high doses of diamorphine. This is a very strong drug, addictive, and has terrible side effects, and is only really used for terminal cancer patients. So elderly ladies with normal complaints have no use for it in their system. So how did he get away with it for so long, and why was there over 250 people murdered by Shipman and no one seemingly noticed? Clues were there and mistakes were made, but nothing seemed to happen. A taxi driver, John Shaw, reported Shipman to the police, saying he'd taken as many as 21 patients to the hospital on behalf of the surgery. Seemed in very good health, but died soon after, when care was handed back to Shipman. An investigation after the trial led investigators to find that statistical monitoring could have led to the alarm being raised at the end of 1996, when there were 67 excess deaths in females aged over 65 years compared to 119 by 1998. So basic statistical bookkeeping would have raised flags and people could have looked into it then. The biggest problem and the biggest reason why it happened for so long undetected is that he would have people cremated, and that's it. All the evidence dies with the cremation. And he's a trusted pillar of society. He's liked and loved, very friendly. People loved him. Why would they suspect him? And if they did suspect him, you're going up against the entire community. It's difficult. I've come to the conclusion he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was putting them out their misery. He was ending in their pain and suffering. But clearly, he's not allowed to make that decision for them. Many of these people had a lot of healthy life left in them and shouldn't have died. After his imprisonment, he hung himself. He was sent to Wakefield prison, couldn't handle it, and took his own life, death by hanging in Monster Mansion. I lived locally to when this happened, and by the time it had got to trial, everybody had a bad story to tell.